Buenos días todos y feliz año nuevo. Bienvenidos a otro año de español. Hello everyone, happy new year and welcome back to a new year of Spanish. Vamos a continuar con el capítulo 3. We're going to keep on going with chapter 3. Yo quiero discutir un problema con la gramática que se llama apersonal. And I want to talk to you guys about one of the problems we see with grammar. It's called apersonal. In order to teach you guys this lesson, we're going to work with 3 new verbs. So the last time we worked with hablar, escuchar, and mirar, to talk, to listen, and to look. And in order to explain this, we're going to use the word buscar. It's very useful. It's to search or to look for. We're going to use preguntar. We may know this from our word pregunta. This one's to ask. And we're going to also try contestar, to answer. So I'm just going to conjugate one of these. I'll pause it and fill the rest in. And I hope you all be able to fill out the rest of the conjugations on your own, since you've already practiced conjugation before. So buscar, we're going to say busco. And for yo, so that would say I search. And tú buscas. Él, ella, usted busca. This will be he or she searches. Nosotros buscamos, we look for. Vosotros buscáis if you're in Spain. And ellos, ellas, and ustedes buscan everywhere else in the world. So I'm going to pause this really quick and fill these in, and you all should be able to do the same. Okay, entonces si ya tenemos todos conjugados, if we've already conjugated all of these, pueden ver que ya tenemos, we've already got I ask, you ask, he asks, we ask, y'all ask, and they ask, and the same thing with answer. And what I want to do is use these verbs mostly in the sentences to explain some important words we have in Spanish. So let's start with the word a. This is not apersonal. This is the same that we worked with when we were learning to tell time. So we said that this word means to, or it could mean at. So knowing that this word means to or at should already explain that this word means more than just either of these words. It's bigger than the two because it already represents both. A good way to describe what this word means is that it shows destination. So it shows where something is going. You know, it shows the destination at the end of this verb. It does not show location. So when we talk about at, like I got this at Target, this is not a. It is not a destination. That will be a location. That word is in. We've practiced that some. But right now we're working with this a that means to or at or destination. It can better be described as the opposite of the word de. De, this word could mean of, and it can also mean from. So this is the opposite of to or at. And it's better described as the origin, where something comes from. So I hope you all can see how these two words are related, and I hope that you guys can see how they're opposites of each other. A shows where something's going, and de shows where something's coming from. Now, neither of these words are apersonal. Apersonal is a word that we need when we want to connect a verb to a person. Okay, so when we're using apersonal in between a verb and a person, what we're gonna see when we use it's gonna this apersonal is gonna connect a verb and a person. So I want to show you some examples of how sometimes we use a word to connect our verbs to people in English, and sometimes we do not. And I want you guys to see the power that this apersonal has, and really be able to understand when you need it and when you do not. So let's start in English. We're going to try and say something like, I listen to my parents. But using this one to say, I listen to my parents, what we're going to say is, yo escucho a mis padres. I like this example because it works exactly the way it does in English. I listen to my parents, my parents. You guys see that? So here I do use a to connect my parents to I, or I listen. So let's try this with a few other things. Instead of listening to my parents, I'm going to try to say, you look for your parents. Now, I'm not saying that you use your eyes to look on their behalf. I'm saying that you are actually searching for them. So notice that in English, the word that we're using here to connect to look to your parents is the word for. What do you think this word is going to be in Spanish? What we're going to need is a personal. This is going to be what connects you looking to your parents. So this is going to say tú buscas, not miras, and we're going to say a tus padres. So here you're looking, and we're using a to connect buscar to your parents. Now, what if you weren't looking for your parents? What if I was saying you look for your homework? Is your homework a person? It is not. So what you would have to say is tú buscas tu tarea. A lot of times people will raise their hand when you see something like this and say, well, Mr. Williams, this says you search your homework instead of you search for your homework, and say that this doesn't make sense. So I want to show you some examples in English where we don't connect the verb to a thing by using to or at. So a good example of this is if I said something like, you answer questions. So here in English, my English version, there's nothing that connects the word answer to questions. And similarly, if I was talking about a person, if I said they answer the teachers, here you can see that there's nothing that connects to answer to questions or to teachers, because that's just the way we use the word answer in English. But in Spanish, we're going to not need anything for questions because questions are not people, but we would need something for teachers because for now, most teachers are still people, not robots. So here you're going to say, tú, we need the word to answer, which is contestar. We're going to choose the one for you. Contestas. And then we want our word question, preguntas. But you answer they answer the teachers would say, ellos contestan los profesores. So here, teachers aren't people. Now we're talking about people. We need a here to connect contestar a los profesores. So if we're doing a quiz or a test in class and you had an a here where you didn't need it, I wouldn't take away any points. I would correct it and say you have an unnecessary a. While here, if you chose to say contestan los profesores and you don't have a, you would lose points there. So it is probably important to show you now, if you haven't seen it before, that when we have the word a, if the next word you're using is el, like a el profesor, this should be al profesor. The same thing will happen with del, de. Let's see how we can do this. Where if you were talking about de el profesor, then this would actually be del profesor. But you can see if we're not doing a plus l or de plus l, what you get is a los, a las, a la, without any difference. I like to try one more that I really like to do in class. It really shows you the power and how you can use a personal and how when you don't use it, you're saying two different things. So in the past, I would always say Rihanna for this example, but I don't think Rihanna is quite as popular as she used to be when I started teaching this. So we will try Ariana Grande. I think a lot of my students really like her. So if I wanted to say something like, I listen to Ariana Grande, I want you all to see that this could mean two different things. This could mean that Ariana Grande is my friend and she calls and gives me advice. This could also mean that I listen to her music a lot. And so one of those things is a person and one of them isn't. So if I'm saying I listen to Ariana Grande and I am talking about her as her music, then what I would say is yo escucho Ariana Grande. And this is the normal thing that the average person does. They may listen to Ariana Grande, and we're just talking about a CD. I guess there's no such thing as CDs. We're talking about a stream or Spotify or YouTube or something. But if I want to say I listen to her as a friend, then this would be yo escucho a Ariana Grande. And now what's happening is that I'm actually listening to her. And is a person. This means that we talk on the phone and somehow we're communicating. So what we use for is connect a person to a verb, and we don't use it in the forms, and we don't use personal if that thing that the verb is happening to is not a person. So I'd like to give you guys just a few to try on your own and be able to see when you need it and when you don't. And I'll give you a chance to pause and add in the answers. So the first one that we want to try is, do you look at the calendar? Notice that we have to or at in English, but calendar is not a person. So it's up to you to decide, do I want here or not? We look at our phones, and we're going to also do, we don't look at the teacher. And let's go ahead and do one with to ask, because we haven't tried that yet. I ask my friends ask Siri or Alexa or Google or whoever it may be that you talk to. So I'm going to pause this, I'm going to put in the answers, and I'm going to try to explain in the last minute or so that I'm allowed to record the difference in the answers that you may come up with here. All right, so here are some solutions to what we had practiced. Do you look at the calendar? We wanted to use the word mirar and conjugate it for tú. So it's a miras el calendario. Do you look at the calendar? Notice that there's no to connect mirar to calendar because calendar is not a person. So we want to do this one in English the same way we did you answer questions. Nothing connecting answer to questions, nothing connecting look to calendar. We look at our phones. Miramos nuestros móviles. So until phones are actually people, we do not use an here. We don't look at the teacher. Robots haven't replaced us yet. So we do need here. And so we say no miramos al profesor. Al profesor. And this is the L that we saw a little earlier. I ask my friends. Are our friends people? For now, yes, they still are. So we pregunto a mis amigos. And if you don't have here, it's not that it's incorrect. It's that you are saying that your friends are not actually people. You're not connecting them personally. And the last is one of my favorites to see in class is my friends ask Siri. We're getting smarter every day, and students answer this question better. But one of my favorite answers that I've gotten here, when I asked, okay, so is Siri a person or not? One of my students, Dominic, said, no, Siri is a computer program. And that is right. She's not a person, or it's not a person. So we want to say, mis amigos preguntan Siri. And until Siri is a person, we would need preguntan a Siri. This topic usually has lots of questions. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, feel free to comment or email me. And Happy New Year. Adios.